The first week of the VCT Americas Kickoff 2025 tournament has concluded. Many brackets have been broken. Pick'ems in shambles, especially my own. A lot of upsets, a lot of unexpected results. Teams that were supposed to be really good looking pretty bad, and teams that were supposed to be bad looking pretty solid. So we're here to talk about every match that happened over the past 4 days. We will be looking at 8 matches total. Let's jump right into it, talking about the first match of the Kickoff tournament, and that was Loud versus Evil Geniuses. This was a 2-0 victory for the Brazilian team, looking very good during this match, showing that their so-called demise has been greatly exaggerated. A lot of people, including myself, thinking this team was going to have a rough year, and while it's still early, so far they are looking really solid. Players like Kawazine from the old team really stepping up during this match, just being a monster on the site, and then Digizen having an incredible debut game on this team, showing that he definitely should not have been left out of Tier 1 in 2024, and Evil Geniuses had some interesting ideas during this match, and they definitely looked solid. This was a 2-0 victory for Loud, but it definitely was 2 close maps. EG did have leads on both maps, but just could not close it out, having problems in the late game, not having that killer instinct to really pounce on Loud when they had the chance. Looking at map 1 on VLR, we have Split, and as I already stated, this map was very close, ended up being a 14-12 win in overtime for Loud. Loud did take the pistol, but then EG had a very good defense half on this one. Players like Ye back on Chamber after saying he didn't like being called a chambermain anymore, and here he is on Chamber. Really glad to see that back, and he looked really good in it. 18 kills for him. And then Loud winning the pistol, and the next round parlayed that into a very strong defense half for themselves. Again, players like Kawazine coming up really clutch for them. 19 kills for him. Digizen top fragging by 9 kills from the next person, who was Kawazine with 19. 28 kills for Digizen there. And EG were able to get to map 3, but they did not close it out. Loud would win the next one, and then win the only 2 rounds of overtime. Moving on to Pearl, which was Evil Genius's pick. EG would win the pistol themselves and the next round, but after stealing the bonus, Loud would win 5 rounds in a row, and it would be 6-6 at the half. So this one really a nail biter, both teams trading winning streaks, and EG looked like they were on a roll. They ended up getting to 9-7, but Loud, with some really solid retakes, were able to close this one out. And looking down at the players, Nature had a good map for himself, 16 kills on the Vise. Kind of surprised we saw him on Vise when we saw Ye on Vise in the offseason, but that is because we had Ye on Phoenix, which was a very interesting pick. I don't think it ended up having the value that they wanted it to, but he definitely had his moments. He started the map pretty slow and then got some multi-kills to get him back in the game, and then it seemed like maybe he's turning around, but then some miss-util here and there, missing some flashes, pushing where he shouldn't. He definitely had a bit of a rough game overall, but he ended up having a pretty respectable KDA, so Ye still, I think stocks should be high on him. He did look pretty solid overall in this match, but Vinny having himself the game of his life in his debut, 20 kills for the new IGL, just taking over the map at times, really keeping his team in a dominant position. Plus 7 overall for him. Kawazine 22 kills, great game from him as well. I am sorry I ever doubted Kawazine. Looking at the team MVPs, could have put Kawazine, but I decided to go with Digizen because in his re-debut he was fantastic. He went 41, 30, and 8 to end it, and FK means first kills. He had 13 of them during this match. So really getting that value off of that aggression, off of being that duelist to create that space for the rest of his team. He did a very solid job at that. And for EG, Ye really liked his game overall. Again, there were some bumps along the road, but still thought he was solid. 35, 33, and 9, and he had 5 separate 3Ks. So overall, Loud look a lot better than what I expected them to, and Evil Geniuses look about where I expected them to. I thought they were on the lower end of the Americas, but a team with a lot of potential, and they definitely showed that during this match. They just could not hold the lead, which you have to be able to do to go far in Valorant, because as soon as the other team gets that round win and they start to snowball, their economy looks a lot better. You need to find a way to stop that from happening, and Evil Geniuses were not able to do it this match, but that is some kinks that they should be able to work out, so we will see how it progresses. Moving on, we have 100 Thieves versus MIBR. This, of course, being the VCT debut of Ospas and Nazwer on this new MIBR squad, and the VCT Americas debut of 2 of their players in Cortesia and Xenom, and on the 100 Thieves side, the debut for Xander being their new Smokes player after Bane departed the Sentinels. Now, I did pick MIBR to win this match in my pick'ems, and looking back, especially with how this match went, definitely not the right pick. And while watching this match, I realized that 100 Thieves were a very bad matchup for MIBR. MIBR is a team that is this newly formed squad, a lot of changes, a lot of players with experience, experience, yes, but some players with none. So as a squad, you need to find your confidence, and having a good first match is a great way to do that. Unfortunately, you're playing 100 Thieves, a team that isn't the best team in the league, but one that plays with a lot of confidence. And when they play with confidence, they play very well. This is a trademark of Boostio-led teams. It was the same with EG back in 2023. They embrace the villain role, Boostio being a massive trash talker, and he's able to get his team to play with a lot of energy, play with a lot of confidence, and against MIBR, that is a recipe for disaster for that Brazilian team. And then at that point, as soon as you have that advantage of playing with more confidence than them, then all you need to do is shut down Ospas, because he is a player that can turn a game around like that. And 100 Thieves did a very, very good job at this. Very unfortunate match for MIBR here, especially for this first map in Lotus. 13-4 win in favor of 100 Thieves, just steamrolling their way to a 10-2 half, not giving MIBR anything. Boostio just outcalling Nozwer at any point. MIBR would show signs of life in the pistol and the anti-eco, but 100 Thieves stole the bonus from them and then won the 3 that they needed. Cortesia having a really rough debut map, 3-13 for him on the Killjoy, -10 for him, definitely not what you want to see. But Ospas didn't have a good map as well. He got 7 kills, 13 deaths, and 3 assists for -6. So all the top guns of MIBR just not able to turn this one around. They would do a much better job in bind, especially going on a very impressive 8-round win streak in the attack half. 100 Thieves would win the pistol, but then Ospas was just trying to drag his team back into this one, which resulted in a very solid attack half that ended 8-4. Unfortunately, 100 Thieves, at least in 2024, were very good on bind, and in the second half, they showed exactly why, going on a 9-round win streak, carrying over from the last 2 rounds of the first half, which just completely tore apart MIBR's lead. They shut down Ospas, they did what they needed to do, and MIBR could only get 1 round on their defense side. This one was over pretty quickly. Ospas, as I said, had a much better game, 23 kills for him, +7, and Cortesia turning things around a little bit for him on the Cypher. He got 14 kills, 17 deaths, and 2 assists, but Cryocells had himself a pretty solid map, going 22, 12, and 6 for +10. EU showing the same potential that he showed last year, 19, 13, and 6 for him. Looking at the team MVPs on side of 100 Thieves, Asuna had himself a very solid game, having himself a very, very good match to keep 100 Thieves in that dominant position. He went 41, 24, and 11, and he got 11 separate 2Ks, so very solid performance from him. Ospas, a bit more of a quiet game for him, but he still dropped 30. He went 30, 29, and 6, and he got 4 separate first kills. So rough debut match from MIBR. They now go down to the lower bracket, so things do not get easier for them. While I did pick them to win this match, I'm not totally surprised by this result. As I said, this one just ended up being a really bad matchup for them. This is a roster that might take some time to really get in the swing of things, especially with the unexperienced players that they have. And 100 Thieves is a team looking to prove doubters wrong, and they will play that villain role if they need to, and it worked to a T in this match for them. Moving on to the January 17th games, we have Furia versus 2Game. And this match, I'm not going to spend too much time on it because I can't really take too much from this. Because if you know what happened, Furia, their entire roster was having visa issues. So what they had to do is they had to get an entirely different roster to play for them. And that roster ended up being some North American Tier 2 players, most of them from the Turtle Troop Tier 2 team. And for this one, I know it's not Furia's fault, but I don't think that this should have been allowed to happen. Think of it from 2Game's perspective. You're the newest team in the league, you're looking at your opponent in Furia, you're doing research on them in the offseason, you're prepping for this specific roster, and probably doing it for at least a month now since the bracket got released. So, all that prep for them just got thrown out the window. Completely disregarded. It doesn't matter. You can't have VODs on a team that didn't exist before this. Maybe you could do research on the individual players and look at like Turtle Troop VODs or whatnot, but overall there's not much you can do, especially with like 3 days of prep. So Furia did end up winning this, but again, it wasn't the squad that they are actually running. And again, I know it's not Furia's fault for this happening. I might do a video on this and the visa issues thing with esports because it's a big thing that happens, but I just feel bad for 2Game here, so I'm not really gonna decipher too much from their play during this match because again, it's just a completely you're going in blind at that point. But to look at both maps, Furia won the first one 13-7. Really solid first half from them, ending at 7-5, going on a 5-round win streak after stealing away the pistol advantage. 2Game tried to get back into it by winning the pistol in the second half, but it just wasn't enough to stop this Furia squad. And then Lotus went even more poorly for 2Game. 13-5 was the final score. 8-4 at the half for Furia. 2Game not able to get more than 1 round win at a time. And then Furia just dominance on their attack side would not allow 2Game to get back into it, and this one was over quick. Looking at the team MVPs on the side of Furia, we have Penny, who should probably have another tier 1 chance after this amazing performance. 37, 22, and 8 for plus 15. Gobert, the new guy on this 2Game roster, went 35, 30, and 10, and he had 7 2Ks. So the only people I really think benefit from this are the players that subbed in for that Furia roster. They got to showcase their skills. I don't know if it turns into any tier 1 opportunities for any of them, because it is just one match against a team that's coming up from tier 2. So I don't really know what happens from here, but it definitely gets more eyes on them, and they got to play a tier 1 match without having any pressure on them, really. And again, I just feel bad for 2Game. I don't know what I would have preferred the solution to be, because Riot would definitely want this match to happen. I personally think for competitive integrity, it should have just been canceled and Furia has to forfeit that one. Again, I know it's not their fault, but how do you justify having an entire roster subbed in? I just can't find a way for that to happen. And Furia ended up playing a couple days later, so maybe you have the match delayed, but then the whole bracket's messed up. I understand why this happened. I just don't like it, but here we are. Moving on, we have probably the biggest upset, at least in terms of off-season expectations, and that is C9 versus Energy. C9 with a very solid 2-0 victory over the team that had a very good off-season. Maybe this is another case of FNS-led teams starting off tournaments really rough, but usually that's at internationals against Asian teams. Not exactly always in North America, but C9 were able to come out here and just play with a lot of confidence to beat up this Energy squad. These would be 2 close maps overall, Energy bringing Fracture to overtime, but even though it was close, it always felt like C9 just had some kind of upper hand on Energy. Looking at map 1, we have Fracture, which was Energy's pick, and as I said, it went to overtime. 14-12 was the final score, and these are just insane halves from both teams. Just look at this absolute mess of a match. We have a 10-2 half in favor of C9, so it looks like Energy is just done for. And then Energy have their own 10-2 half, and it looks like C9's done for. So Energy started really slow, couldn't get anything going on defense, especially on a map that FNS in the past has been very good at calling on. But with some big plays from Zeppa playing Clove and getting 28 kills on this map, it just seemed like Energy were just lost on their defense, and then they turned it around on attack. They had all the momentum going into that overtime, and then C9 was just like, alright, enough is enough, let's end this, and they win the only 2 rounds of overtime. So Energy very well could have won this one, but that's not how it went. Some really big hero plays from Som kept them in it, who got 30 kills on the Brimstone. Amazing match from him. He was the main player in this entire match, just trying to drag Energy to some kind of success, and it just did not work out in the end. And then looking at Lotus, the halves were not as crazy this time, but Energy could not win this one. 13-10 win for C9. They won the pistol. They had the momentum in the first half of the first half. Energy would steal the momentum back. It ended up being 6-6 at the half, so they're right there with them. And then Energy win 3 rounds in a row to make it 9-6. Maybe they can come back and get this one. And 6 rounds in a row from C9 basically ends it. Energy would get one more retake round win in round 22, but it just wasn't enough. C9 had all the momentum and the economy. Mitch stepping up in his IGL re-debut for this roster. He had 17 kills and a rating of 1.35. And Zeppa on the Tejo. Tejo was played a lot in the VCT this past week. I'm kind of surprised, but Tejo looks really strong. And Zeppa played him really well. 26 kills plus 9 for him. Kind of surprised he didn't have a better rating than Mitch. Ethan tried to do his best. Som was getting a lot of kills on the controller role, but Mata, he just did not have a great game. Only 15 kills for him on the second map. Verno had a decent map with 17 kills, but that's just not enough. It's when you're trying to pull yourself back into this map. Looking at the team MVPs on the side of C9, Zeppa absolutely destroying the paycheck stealer allegations. He went 56, 50, and 17, and he had 14 multi-kills, so that means like 4Ks, 3Ks, 2Ks, you get it. He had 14 separate rounds of having a round like that, so very impressive work from him. And for energy, saw him, especially because of that first map, he went 49, 35, and 22 for plus 14. So this was a crazy match with just some massive momentum shifts each way, both teams snowballing at different times, but C9 were the ones that were able to see through the fog and finally get the win. There were some solid performances on Energy's side, and their new players in Mata and Verno didn't have terrible debuts, but this is not what we were expecting from a team that looked unstoppable in the offseason. This is exactly why I didn't put this team as number one on my power rankings, because they still have a ways to go. They still have to figure out how to be successful in the VCT with this new roster. It doesn't matter that they won Soup League. It doesn't matter that they won Sin City Classic. They have to win now. This is the real deal, but that is not an easy task, so we'll see how it happens for Energy. C9, they would go further, and they look pretty solid as well, but we'll get to their second match later on. Moving on to the January 18th games, we have Loud versus Kru. The Brazilian versus Latam matchup ended up going the way of Brazil. Kru definitely had higher expectations than Loud coming into the season, so Loud once again proving doubters wrong. The EG one was more of a test because EG is more unproven. However, Kru, a weird team to predict, but one that should still be solid and should be able to beat a team like Loud. But Loud just looked dominant during this match, not letting Kru get much going. As soon as they got the momentum in the first half of the first map, they just held on to it for the rest of the match, and Kru just could not find an answer for them. Looking at map 1, as I said, that first half was very good for Loud. 10-2 at the half, not even allowing Kru to get a retake win. The 2 rounds that they got were from eliminations, so very solid work from Loud there, just not allowing them on site. Kru would do better on their defensive half by winning 5 rounds in a row to start it, but the hill was too big to climb at that point. Loud would get the 3 wins that they needed. No one on the Kru side getting more than 13 kills. Shy and Kesnet were tied for top frag. Amazino, in his return to this organization, went 7, 18, and 4 for minus 11. I said I was worried about Mazzino. This is just one match, but not like what I'm seeing so far. And Digizin, yet again, dominant performance, 19 kills, 7 deaths, 3 assists, plus 12, absolutely cooking. Moving on to Split, Kru would do better in that first half, but again, Loud just felt a lot more confident than they did. Kru getting 2 separate 3-round win streaks, Loud getting 3 separate 2-round win streaks. And then in the second half, Loud won the pistol, winning both pistols of this map, and that gave them the economy that they needed to snowball into winning this match. Kesden having a better map than the first one, 24 kills from him, more of the Kesden that we've seen. Amazino having a bounce back map with 18 kills, but just wasn't enough. And Digizin, yet again, 18 kills from him, 16 deaths, 3 assists plus 2. Great work from him. And Vinny, yet again, stepping up big in map 2. Maybe map 2 is just where he shines. 17, 16, and 8 for your IGL. Your IGL is almost top fragging for you. Vinny looks like a really good pickup right now. Looking at the team MVPs on the side of Loud, I put Digizin again. He went 37, 23, and 6 for plus 14. On the side of Kru, Kesnet matched Digizin for kills with 37. He went 37, 28, and 6. And he got 7 separate first kills, so decent performance on that second map, but just not much going for Kru on that first map, and that just doomed them for the rest of the match. So Loud once again proved doubters wrong. They have not dropped a map in the kickoff bracket so far. I am looking like a complete idiot for putting them at the bottom of my power rankings, so I definitely have more faith in this team now. They look really solid right now. Their 2 additions look like godsends right now. Vinny seems like a really good IGL who can also top frag for you, so that's really valuable to have. And Digizin is on a revenge tour, it seems. He is looking like one of the best duelists in the Americas right now. And for Kru, disappointing performance overall from a roster you hope can build off of the good end of last year, but your new additions in Mazzino and Adverso both had rough matches, and Kesnet got going during the second map, but it was just too little too late. So kind of worried about Kru. I don't love their chances in lower bracket, but hey, they can turn it around, but this is looking like last year's kickoff bracket for them. Moving on, we have the matchup that seems to just happen no matter what. Sentinels versus 100 Thieves. This was a barn burner. Probably the best match of the entire Americas so far. Not just because it was the first and so far only 2-1 match in the Americas, but because these teams were just going back and forth. So much trash talk, so many momentum swings in this match, and just some really good Valorant overall. Absolute chef's kiss for this one, with some crazy plays like Asana on the rope, Boostio spinning a bunch trying to get the defuse, and it worked. It was just an insane match to see. But Sentinels, just like they usually do against 100 Thieves, were able to get the win. But it didn't look like it was going to go that way at first, because Split, which was Sentinels' pick, ended up being 13-4 in favor of 100 Thieves. Sentinels winning the first 2 rounds, 100 Thieves would take 2 of their own, and Sentinels would get 2 more. So they have the advantage, it's 4-2, but then 100 Thieves just steamrolls. Winning 11 rounds in a row to end this one. Sentinels not even getting one on their defense side. 100 Thieves, they just smelled blood in the water and they just went for it. Interesting composition here from Sentinels. That was one of my questions for them heading into the season, is how was the whole John QT on Initiator, narrate on Sentinel thing gonna work? Well, apparently it doesn't matter because both players are playing Initiator right now. But this composition is kind of weird to me. So you have the Teo coming in for John QT, who had a good match on that character. Teo seems like a great character for IGLs to play, which makes a lot of sense considering his kit. But there isn't even a single Sentinels agent in this composition, so I understand the double Initiator, but you're going double Initiator and double smokes. Why not get, say, Zelsis to hop on a Sentinel role? I'm sure he can do it. He's a flex player. Or maybe do what you were doing in the offseason with narrate on the Sentinel, but they ended up going with the Breach and Tejo, which does seem like a pretty good combo. Tejo, you can combo him with some other agents such as Astra, which they didn't have, but the 100 Thieves roster did. They had EU on that Tejo, who did quite well for himself, but the highlight was Cryocells with the Sage. 24 kills for him, plus 16 on this first map. Incredible masterclass from him. And that's part of the reason why Sentinels had a really rough time on this map, because Cryo with that Sage, it was just a lot of unexpected walls and slows and plays that they just were not ready for. However, in map 2, Sentinels would start to turn things around for themselves. 13-9 wins, snatching that advantage from 100 Thieves, and doing it on Bind, a map that 100 Thieves is very good at. And they would show it at the start by winning the first 4 rounds of the map. However, Sentinels put together 3 rounds in a row and only allowed 1 more win on the side of 100 Thieves. 4 rounds in a row for Sentinels to end the half, and then they would get the first 2 of the second half, so 6 rounds total for them. 100 Thieves went on their own winning streak after stealing the bonus, but just was not enough. Sentinels had the advantage and they were looking quite good. A lot more coordinated, a lot more confident from that first map. Things looked really dicey at the start of this map, but they recovered, and they're a lot more of a veteran team than MIBR, which as soon as 100 Thieves got the confidence of, they just steamrolled them. Sentinels are not that same team. A lot of experience on this roster. There's a reason why they were so good in 2024. Sentinels once again not running a Sentinel character on their composition. Instead, we have another double Initiator, double smoke composition. You had Zekin on the Raze. He's always good on that character. And Neri with a decent game on the get-go, 16-17 for him. And Asuna continuing his strong play from the first map on the Raze. He gets 21, 18, and 3 for +3. And then Pearl was the decider map. Both teams making their debut on this map after this map being out of the pool for a very long time. And this one was a nail biter for both teams' fan bases. Both teams trading rounds in that first half. Sentinels doing well on the retake, ending this one 6-6 at the half. And then 100 Thieves would take the pistol. Looks like they can start to snowball now. Nope. Sentinels 4 rounds in a row for this one. After that, 100 Thieves would only get 1 more round win. Sentinels take this one without allowing 100 Thieves to get to double digits. John QT with a fantastic game on the Tejo, 22 kills for him. Xander with a much better map than the first 2, 15, 12, and 12 for him. He was the top rated player on the team. Cryo on the Jet, not finding enough value, but still 15 kills. And Boostio, rough game with some interesting plays like the defuse I was talking about, 12 kills for him on the Killjoy. Looking at the team MVPs on the side of Sentinels, you had John QT with a very solid game, one of the best games I've seen him play in a while. On the side of 100 Thieves, Cryocell shows up here, 53, 42, and 18, and he had 12 separate multi-kill rounds. So honestly, very impressive work from both teams. Really like what I'm seeing from both 100 Thieves and Sentinels. Sentinels are just a team that is really solid on paper, has played 100 Thieves quite a bit. They knew what they were getting into, and they knew how to switch the momentum in their favor. Overall, a pretty solid debut for their new additions in Narrate and Bank. And Xander on 100 Thieves, that third map, he recovered quite well after a pretty quiet first 2 maps. But honestly, these 2 teams looked like they should be clashing heads a lot during this season, as we usually see. But both of them look really solid, so both teams could still find themselves later in the bracket. Moving on to the last day of games, we have Leviatan versus Furia. So this was the actual Furia roster that we will be seeing throughout the season, and this was Leviatan's debut with their new roster that does not have Ospos on it. Instead, we had Demon 1 and a tank join joining. Overall, a pretty rough debut from Demon 1, but the rest of his team was playing really good, so it ended up not mattering. Calm especially shutting down the haters with one of the best matches I've seen him play ever, especially considering last year he was consistently bottom fragging, wasn't finding a lot of value, but he had a very, very good debut in 2025. And Furia's new roster didn't look terrible, but Leviatan just clearly had a lot more skill than they did. They did a lot better on both sides of the map, especially the attack side. Furia trying those flood pushes, but just ended up not mattering that much. Leviatan just outplaying them in every corner. King doing a great job calling on this one, and as I said, Calm came in clutch a lot. On the first map, we have Haven, which was a 13-8 win in favor of Leviatan. Lev having a very good first half, ending at 9-3. Not a curse anymore, even though Furia tried it with winning 4 rounds in a row to start the second half. But Lev just had too much of a lead, and as soon as they got the round back, they just snowballed and they won. As I said, Calm, really good match from him. 27 kills on the Sova, plus 13 from him. Best player on Furia was probably Khalil. Players like Havoc, Rafa, and Heat all struggling on this one. Moving on to map 2, Split, even better for Leviatan, even worse for Furia. 13-6 this time, 9-3 at the half. Once again, Furia only getting 1 retake win. And then Lev not allowing Furia to plant that much on their attack side, and this one was over pretty quick. Kane had a great game for himself, 20 kills plus 11. IGL's looking pretty good right now. Havoc had himself a decent map on the Rays, 15 kills, 14 deaths, but just did not matter. Looking at the team MVPs on the side of Leviatan, already talked about Calm. He went 41, 27, and 9. He had 4 separate rounds with 3 kills. Havoc did go negative, but he was Furia's best performer, 29, 33, and 11. He had 9 separate first kills, so he was playing well at times, but just not consistently enough, which was a problem he had last year. So a really good debut for Leviatan's new roster. I think this was the best matchup possible for them. You're playing a team that's coming in cold because they haven't played yet, at least this version of them, and that allowed players like Calm to feast on them and just show that experience really matters at the end of the day. As I said, rough match from Demon 1. The tank was okay, but I think both of those players will work out their kinks. The pressure was off of Demon 1 in this one because the rest of his team was playing so well, so we'll see how much of that continues. But Leviatan, they're looking good. They're looking how I expected them to. Furia, not the best right now, but we'll see how it progresses. Moving on to our last match of the video, we have G2 versus C9. C9 coming off of that win versus Energy, probably with a lot of confidence. They're ready to fight. You have Net facing his old team, but G2 would not allow the same thing that happened to Energy to happen to them. This is a roster that has been together for a long time at this point. They've started slow in years past. They do not want to do that this year, and this one ended up being a masterclass from G2. Giacomo looking fantastic in his debut, doing exactly what I thought he was going to do and allow this team to play a lot faster when they needed to, while the team still maintains that disciplined, intelligent play that they had from last year. This team looks scary right now with him on the roster. And players like Leaf stepping up big, Valen showing why he's one of the best IGLs in the entire world, and C9 just didn't have much of an answer for them. They couldn't do the same thing that they did to Energy, which was just flood them and be more confident than they were. G2 are a very mentally strong team, not saying that Energy isn't, but that's a more new roster compared to a roster that only had one change, and C9 just could not get much going here. G2 would just run away with this one pretty easily. Looking at map 1, we have Lotus, which ended up being 13-6 in favor of G2. Really solid first 9 rounds from them, getting a lot of retake wins. Ended up being 9-4 at the half, so C9, there's still a chance there. It's only a 4-round lead, but G2 quickly said, no, not happening. Won 3 rounds in a row. That pretty much called it curtains for them. Leaf having a great game against his former team. People forget how good he is a lot, I feel. He got 22 kills, 11 deaths, 4 assists. He went plus 11. Giacomo, great debut map from him, 16, 11, and 8 for plus 5 on the Yoru. And across the board for C9, not a lot of great performances on this map, Zeppa being the only one that didn't go negative. And then on Abyss, C9 would get 2 more rounds than they did in the last map, but the first half pretty much called it curtains for them. G2 doing really well on the retakes, only having 1 round that they won not be a retake win. They would let C9 get on site, and then they're like, alright, time to flood in, and it worked. C9 would win the pistol, and then the next one, G2 took one back, 3 in a row from C9. Is it doable? Nope. G2 wins 3 in a row to end this one. Jogmo ended up having a pretty quiet map on this one, only 13 kills from him, but when you have Leaf dropping 22, 12, and 3 with plus 10, doesn't really matter. Jonah P as well, doing great for himself, 17 assists, 18 kills for him, great work. Oxy being the only person that went positive on C9, yet again, just the Oxy show. Zeppa was okay in this one, but definitely a far cry from what he was showing in the previous maps that he's played so far. Looking at the team MVPs on the side of G2, it's got to be Leaf just destroying his old team. 44, 23, and 7 for plus 21 for him. Zeppa, even though he had a rough last map, did end up being the team MVP for C9 because of his first map performance, 27, 28, and 13. He had 4 separate rounds where he got 2 kills. So great debut from G2. I'm glad they didn't go the way of Energy, where I expect them to be really good, and then their first match just did not look that way. G2 looked really solid. Jogmo looks like a fantastic addition. He should blend in really well with their style because now they can play more aggressive. They can have that guy just run in and get a bunch of kills, and it worked to a T, while having some really good performances from players like Leaf and Jonah P. This team is very, very deep. I definitely had more faith in G2 than I did Energy heading into the season, which some people just disagree with me with, which fair, but this is why. G2 is a roster that has been together for a while, and they improved a lot in 2024, so I just had a lot of faith in them, and I'm glad that so far that has been realized. We'll see how it goes from them. Doesn't get easier for them. They play Leviatan next, but let's look at the upcoming matches. So for the week 2 opening matches, we have Furia versus Evil Geniuses, C9 versus MIBR, 100 Thieves versus Energy, Kru versus 2Game, Loud versus Sentinels, and then G2 versus Leviatan. Some really interesting matchups here. Let's do some quick predictions. Starting at the top, I feel like EG can take this one, but they just got burned by another Brazilian team, but I'll say that they work out their kinks and they win that one. C9 versus MIBR. MIBR could win that one, but I'll say C9 just because they looked better than MIBR did in their debut match, but maybe they can work out their kinks and Osboss can feast on them. 100 Thieves versus Energy. It's a shame that one of these teams are going to be out early, but again, they didn't look terrible against C9, but just was not the debut that you wanted. 100 Thieves, I think, are looking a lot better. However, they did play much different opponents, so we'll see with this one. You know what? I'll say 100 Thieves. I think they're looking too good to go out this early. Energy not looking the greatest. I'll say 100 Thieves. Kru versus 2Game. I'll say Kru just because that seems like it should happen. Loud versus Sentinels. Loud's been on a good run. I've doubted them before, but Sentinels did look really good against 100 Thieves after a slow start. I will say Sentinels, but a close match. G2 versus Leviatan. Both teams had great debut matches, but I will say G2. I'll stick to what I'm doing. So those are all the matches that we have to talk about. That's what's upcoming. Let me know in the comment section down below, what did you think of this first week? Was it everything you hoped for? Was the long off season worth it? Let me know what you think of all these matches and all the plays and all the players that you witnessed. Please click like and subscribe if you enjoyed this video. Thank you all very much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye.